Hi Van, so we are on lesson 6 in chapter 8, writing hundredths again, okay? So let's have a look at our in focus task. It says, what number does this show? So you need to have a look at the discs that are shown here and work out what number it shows. So pause the video now whilst you have a little think about that. So first thing you need to think about is what number is shown on each disc. What is 0.01? What does that mean? How many are there of those discs? So 0.01, if you remember, is a hundredth. Not 100, hundredth. We have to start by counting how many hundredths there are. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we've got 15 hundredths there. What can we do when we've got more than 10 hundredths? Well done if you said that we can regroup them for a tenth. So we can regroup 10 hundredths for a tenth because they are the same value. Okay, so then how would we write 15 hundredths as a decimal? So first of all, we need to realise that 15 hundredths equals 10 hundredths, add 5 hundredths. What would that equation look like after we've regrouped 10 of those hundredths for a tenth? What would our equation look like then? Pause the video whilst you see if you can finish off that equation. So instead of 10 hundredths, we've regrouped them for 1/10, and then we've still got those 5 hundredths there. Okay, so instead of 10 hundredths add 5 hundredths, it would be 1/10 add 5 hundredths. Now this then helps us to work out how we write it as a decimal. So we're going to draw our place value grid. Oh no, not tens. We've got our ones here, our decimal point, then we've got our tenths, and we've got our hundredths. Okay, so if we've got 1/10 and 5 hundredths, how do I put that into my place value grid? My 1/10 goes in the tenths column and my 5 hundredths go in the hundredths column. Okay, and then we have to fill in our placeholder there because we've got 0 ones. So that is how we write the 15 hundredths as a decimal. Okay, let's see if we can apply that to this question here. Write 1 and 41 hundredths as a decimal. Okay, so your job here, if you remember from the last question, is to regroup these hundredths here into tenths. How many tenths can we regroup those 41 hundredths into? So you can use your 10 times tables for this. Pause the video now whilst you see if you can work that out. Okay, so if we've got 41 hundredths, we can split that 41 into 10, 10, 10, 10, and 1. 10, 20, 30, 41. Okay, that's me using my knowledge of my 10 times table. So that means I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 10. So I've got 4 groups of 10 times a hundredth. Okay, so I've got 5, 10, one group, 5, 10, another group, 5, 10, another group, 5, 10, another group. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 10. So that means I can regroup those 4 groups of 10 for 4 tenths. Okay, so then I've got 1 whole, add my 4 tenths, and then don't forget it was 41, so I've still got this 100th here. And then I need to add them all together. So that's when we're going to get our place value grid back up. Our ones, our tenths, and our hundredths. So I've got 1 whole. I put in my ones column and then my decimal point. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths, and I've got 1 hundredth. So 1 whole and 41 hundredths is written as 1.41. Okay, so all you have to do is count how many you've got and then put them in the correct place value column. See, that's what they did here. They regrouped into tenths, and then they've got 1 whole, 4 tenths, and 1 hundredth. 1.41. Have a go at this guided practice. So it says, write each number as a decimal, use 1, tenths, and hundredths to help you. Okay, so we're doing what we've just done now. For 9 hundredths, 68 hundredths, 13 hundredths, and 99 hundredths. And then have a go here where we've got some wholes, some ones involved. Okay, have a little go at that, pause the video, and then we'll go through some of the answers. Right, so let's see how we've got on. So number 1, A, we've got 9 hundredths. As a fraction, I would write that like so. Okay, and we know that a hundredth looks like this. And we've got 9 of those. I could keep going, but I'm not going to. 9 hundredths in our place value column would be, the 9 goes in there, and then we backfill our placeholders. Okay, so 0.09 is 9 hundredths, because we haven't got any other numbers to fill in. Okay, so 0.09 for A. B, we've got 68 hundredths. Okay, if we split up 68, we've got 6 tenths, haven't we? And we've got 8 ones. So let's think about this with our place value columns. I've got my 8 goes in my hundredths, my tens I've got 6, and then no wholes, so we've got 0.68. For C, we've got 13 hundredths, okay, which means we've got 1 tenth and 3 hundredths, so it would be 0.13. 1 tenth, 3 hundredths. Think about this with our base 10. If this is 100, okay, we've got 1 tenth stick and 3 hundredth cubes. Okay, but we haven't got any hundreds because we've got 13 out of 100. For D, we've got 99 hundredths, so we've nearly got 100 out of 100, but not quite. Okay, so we've got 9 tenths and 9 hundredths. We haven't got any wholes yet, so we've got 0.99. So moving on to section 2, where we have got some ones, we've got 2 and 5 hundredths. Okay. So we know what hundredths look like, so we know that that bit, we've got 5 hundredths, so we know that the 5 goes in here. We haven't got any tenths here, so I put 0, and how many ones we got? We've got 2, so it's 2.05. We need to have that placeholder in there. If this was a 1, then we would have a 1 in there. Okay, but we don't have anything there, so we just need to put a 0. Okay, B, we've got 2 and 23 hundredths. Okay, so I'm going to carry this down, this will be easier. We've got 3 hundredths, 2 tenths, our decimal point, and 2 ones. 2.23. Okay, so if we work backwards looking at those top numbers, that could be quite helpful. For C, we've got 4 and 30 hundredths. So how many hundredths we got? 0, 3 tenths, our decimal point, and 4 ones. And for D, we have 1 and 51 hundredths. Working backwards, we've got 1 hundredth, 5 tenths, decimal point, and 1 whole. So we have 1.51. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky, but we've got to look at these numbers on top and think about our place value. So please do draw this place value grid out. Don't forget your decimal point and look as to whether it has any ones, any wholes, okay, and they go on the other side of your decimal point. Don't forget for your zeros to be your placeholders, okay, we don't just leave it blank. If there isn't any ones, remember, we also put a 0, okay, and we still put the decimal point in. So now it's your turn to have a go at worksheet 6, page 11 to 13. If you have any questions, do post them on our Google Classroom. Okay, I'm intrigued to see how we get on with this one. Please do draw your place value grids. Good luck, guys.